This show is brought to you by X Factor FM. Attention all units. Time to rise and grind. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. You put in the hours on the job site, the factory floor, and the rigs. But here, right now, the mission is different. Welcome to Operation Fatherhood. The mission brief is simple. Lead with strength, guide with heart, show up for your kids like you show up for your work site. Every single day, no excuses. This is your call to gear up, step in, and execute the most important role of life, being a dad. Operation Fatherhood, hard hats, soft hearts. The mission starts now. Welcome back, dads. Welcome back to yet another episode of Operation Fatherhood. Greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in. So every dad has stumbled at one point in time. And I just want y'all to understand that, sometimes we lose our temper. Sometimes, we miss certain moments that we have going on with our family, with our kids. Sometimes we, walked away when it got really, really heavy. And now we carry that weight around us like it's, our tool bags loaded up. So today's episode is going to be just that. We're going to talk about, how us dads become the comeback dad, right? How do we come back from some of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day, some of the stuff that may have ended up being, what we thought was a setback. So first, the fall. You got to take the fall, right? You have to stumble and fall in a sense, and I hate using this, but fail, right? To then be able to bounce back and come back, right? So first, we got to take that fall and recognize when we are wrong. Every father out there, every dad out there, for my new dads, pay close attention, please. These are words of advice and encouragement. So every father ends up hitting a breaking point, whether it be burnout, addiction, divorce, infidelity, absence, or emotional distance. Okay. So those things, burnout, let's talk about that for a minute. So when you start, and I know we talked about it on the previous episode. So when you start feeling yourself, mentally fogged and fatigued, again, being in the trades, being out, on site, working with your tools in the elements, yes, your body's going to get fatigued. But when it gets to a point to where you're being over fatigued, even when you're home, that could be early signs of burnout. So I need y'all to be paying attention to that. A lot of times we have a weight on our shoulders, and what ends up happening? Addiction, alcohol, opioid addiction, right? To try to ease the pain, relieve some of that stress. So just really, guys, I'm preaching this from the mountaintops to every dad out there. Pay attention to your health, to your mental health and mental state, right? Again, we some of those breaking points, right? And again, it happens very regularly, right? Divorce, separation. Sometimes you get that separation your way. It's like, out of sight, out of mind is how sometimes you're feeling. So I think, that absence ends up kicking in, and, then it's like, oh, well, I'm here for a long time and some things end up happening. And, then you become emotional distant from your kids and your family. So to bring that back, and I will say one of the hardest parts isn't falling. All right. It's admitting that we fail. right? The hard part isn't the fall that we take. It's admitting that we ended up falling, that we fell, right? And our kids don't need excuses. They need accountability. They need to see that dad can be and hold himself accountable for some of these shortcomings, some of these stuff that ends up happening. So a couple of tips, right? Name your mistakes out loud. And what do I mean by that? Whether it be with your significant other, if you're, by yourself, in a sense, talking to yourself in the mirror, right? Do it privately. You can do it privately to where nobody's around, but do it out loud. Don't just keep all those thoughts in the head. And then when you are ready, bring up those things to your kids as well. This circles back to that accountability point. So don't just justify what you did wrong and your fall, right? But also acknowledge. Simple words like "I was wrong" carry more power than long, drawn out explanations that, we end up giving. And I know I say this a lot, but journal or pray through your shortcomings before facing your family, right? Build that clarity of courage, to be able to then talk to your family. Hey, this is what happened. This is where I, fell short at. So yeah. And this is where I fell short at, guys. This is what ended up happening. This is, how, I'm being truthful and holding myself accountable for what happened. So yes, most definitely journal, pray, so that way you'll be able to get that, that clarity, that courage that you need to be able to then, express, what happens. But once that trust isn't, is broken, right? Once our kids, our family sees that we failed, that, we ended up, becoming emotionally distant, that absence was taking a toll on us. We got to rebuild that trust, brick by brick. Like, we have to rebuild the trust at some point, sometime. The trust has to be back in there. So I will say trust is definitely earned, not through grand gestures, not through gifts, not through, we're going to go out to eat. No, it's through consistency, showing up, holding yourself accountable through everything that you have going on, to be able to build that trust back. And your children will end up forgiving you slower than they can forget. You just got to give them time. Okay. You have to give them the time, not only to, process what's going on, but also give them time to see the change, to be able to see that change, to see that you are, in the right direction. You are, in a sense, building that trust back, that bond back that may have been lost because of, again, our shortcomings. So this is why it's called the comeback dad, right? Because we're coming back from maybe hitting rock bottom. We're coming back from, maybe a failure or a fall, a stumble along our path in fatherhood. So we have to be able to build that trust back and come back. And the small things really matter the most. Showing up on time, keeping your promises, and staying present. Okay. So showing up on time, I think it is very key. Being, I was in the military. If you're, 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Like, yeah, you got to make sure you show up on time. Keep those promises, any small, big, whatever it may be. Keep those promises to your babies, to the kids, right? They notice that, they see that, they feel that, and stay present, right? stay present. As you're working, building this trust back brick by brick, stay present, right? Reassure them that dad is there, that I'm going to be there. Yeah, I may have, fallen short, but we're not going to let that set our family back. We're not going to let that hold us down. We're going to continue to strive for excellence and keep going. So a couple of tips with, trying to rebuild that trust. Keep your word, even on the small commitments, right? Reconnect through those shared experiences, the hobbies. I know we talked about the hobbies, right? Your woodworking, your, golf outings, right? Those little things, rides home from school. If you're able to be home and pick them up from school, right? These things end up reconnecting you guys together. Again, building that trust and that bond brick by brick. And don't try to force the forgiveness, right? Don't try to, force them to forgive you. It's going to happen on their own time. Just continue to prove it to them daily that you are a changed man, that you can come back from a minor setback. And it's going to be for a great comeback. So make sure that, again, don't try to force that forgiveness on them. Try to make it to where, you prove it to them with the small things, right? The small commitments, the small promises, the small gestures that you end up doing end up going a long way. Yeah, that you end up, showing them. So just continue to show up. Don't force everything on them. And make sure that in this time that we're trying to rebuild, reconnect, establish trust, right? Make sure that you're also healing yourself, right? So that way you're able to heal your family. And what do I mean by that, right? You can't give peace if you're carrying pain. Let me say that again. You cannot give peace if you're carrying pain. So again, that weight on our shoulders to be the provider, the protector, and we end up, in the midst of all of that, end up having a minor setback or a major setback, right? We're carrying that weight. You also have to heal while you're trying to heal your family, to be able to heal your family. So again, you cannot give peace if you're carrying pain. All right. Again, and this is why us dads need to stick together. We'll be able to talk, amongst each other. And, if you need to talk to one of your fellow brethren, please do that. Reach that community that's out there, right? You can talk to us, send me an email, shoot me a DM on any social media platform. So that way we're able to connect and see how we can help each other become better dads, right? Many dads end up avoiding that healing process because they believe it might take away from them being able to provide. As a matter of fact, it does the polar opposite. It ends up enhancing you being a provider. It ends up making you that much more stronger and resilient as a dad when you can actually heal yourself through this process and come out on top. Okay, so don't avoid the healing process that us dads, us men have to take. Embrace that to be able to then give that peace to our family, build that trust and that bond back. And also, again, the emotional and mental repair, right, that we have to do. Again, little notches on the belt, right? Little, bumps and bruises that we take along inside on the job site. This is kind of like that. So, that emotional and mental repair, that's a form of leadership. That's a form of resiliency. That's a form of accountability, that you're able to understand and know what happened and to pivot to be able to fix it. One, as a man and as a dad, but then also as the key provider, as the leader that you need to be. Yes, you definitely have to ensure that the emotional and mental healing of yourself happens as well. So a couple of tips when we're talking about the healing process. I am not a firm believer of this, but I know a lot of dads that have been through it, and it has helped them. So who knows, right? But seek therapy or counsel, right? Even if it's briefly, right? To release that guilt and build a strategy to be able to, one, heal yourself so that way you can give that peace without carrying all the pain. Practice forgiveness towards yourself. Guys, I cannot iterate this enough. You have to forgive yourself, okay? We can ask for forgiveness from everybody else, right? But if we're looking ourselves in the mirror and we're not forgiving ourselves, yeah, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So, and then make sure that we are reestablishing your values, your boundaries before re-entering your child's life fully. That's if that separation, that absence, right? Make sure that you reestablish your values, your boundaries, okay, before you re-enter the child's life. Just because it will, if you're not fully aware of your boundaries, the values that you need to uphold and maintain, certain things that you may need to put in place, that strategy, right? It could end up hurting your kids more than this, setback that just recently happened, right? And we want to make sure that we are, again, being the providers, being able to give peace to our kids, to know that dad's there, that we're going to provide for them without us carrying that pain. So make sure you reestablish those things. Reconnecting through actions. When you reconnect through actions, it's just that. Every action has, a good and a bad outcome, I would say, right? Obviously, good actions have good outcomes, bad actions have bad outcomes. But if, we're talking rebuilding, gaining trust, making sure that our love is visible, and not visible with presents and gifts and, new Jordans and new outfits. Those are great from time to time, but your love ends up being visible when you show it in time and effort and consistency. So reconnecting, again, we're talking building that trust, being able to, again, love ourselves, hold ourselves accountable, and making sure that we're able to give that peace without carrying the pain. That love has to be visible at all times, but it comes in time, in effort, in consistency, to be able for your kids to know that, again, you're working on you while you're helping them grow, and they're helping you grow to be better. Like it definitely has to be one of those things that, it's an action to allow reconnection. And the repair isn't instant. Okay. It's a process of showing up even when it feels awkward or painful, depending on what the setback is, depending on, how, and I pardon my language, but how big the fuck up is that we ended up, doing or having that caused our kids pain. The repair isn't going to be overnight. You're not going to wake up one morning getting ready to go to work and FaceTime them and they're going to be like, yeah, I want to talk to dad. No, they might not talk to you for, a couple of weeks, months even. But it's that process of showing up. It's that process of you being able to maneuver and navigate, even if you feel a little awkward, even if it is a little painful. But those actions, the small consistencies that you end up making and having and showing up for them, those will be able to, again, give you that reconnection, building that trust back to them. The kids need to see the difference between who you were and who you're becoming, right? Because again, as men, as fathers, we're constantly growing, we're constantly adapting, we're hopefully constantly growing and being 1% better than we were the day before. But the kids need to be able to see that. The kids need to be able to see the difference between who you were when shit happened, right? Versus who you are becoming and who you're going to be, right? So again, making sure that through this reconnecting phase, through being able to build that trust back, know that they need to see the difference. So this is where, again, that showing up, that consistency, that, showing and one, loving yourself, but then that also pours out into how your kids are watching and seeing you grow as a man and as a father. So yeah, it definitely is one of those things to be able to reconnect. It has to be through action. You can't just speak words. You actually have to put some action behind the words, so that way they see you becoming better, growing. So a couple of tips with being able to reconnect through these actions: create new traditions to replace some of those missed memories, right? Some of the things that maybe you did when, up until shit hit the fan and we had our minor setback, right? Create new memories, whether it's, weekend breakfast with the kids, having the kids cook breakfast with you, right? Those types of things that, small little traditions that can happen, letters, any kind of again, projects or hobbies, new traditions that, that way they start to build again and reconnect through these memories that they start creating versus, things that they may have, hold on to from, what happened. When apologizing, do not rush. Let your child respond on their terms. Okay. Do not rush the apology. And yes, and what do I mean by that? Of course, we're going to say, my bad, I fucked up, I'm sorry, right? But do not rush trying to reconnect with them through that apology. Let them respond on their own terms. They need time to process. They may, if our mess up ended up hurting them, scorning them in any way, they're going to take time to process that. So, and then another tip, be consistent, right? Give yourself 90 days of constant daily communication, steady behavior with no excuses, right? It takes 28 days to form a new habit, right? Give yourself 90 days. That's 3 months of being consistent, showing your actions, making sure that we're building and rebuilding that trust brick by brick. So make sure you give yourself that time. And again, what they see is the difference from the dad that you were to the dad that you're becoming and the dad that, you should be. So keep that in mind. Give yourself some time to be able to show through action the daily communication, your steady behavior, no excuses, and you're continuously reconnecting with your kids. Again, guys, this is why I say this is the comeback dad, right? Because we're coming back from a minor setback. And it's going to be a major comeback, right? We're going to come back stronger as dads. We're going to be able to, know and have our kids know that we're there and we want have their best interest at heart. So it's definitely one of those things that we want to make sure that we're doing. And just so you guys know, redemption is a process, not a moment, right? In order to redeem ourselves, it's not one moment in time that we're trying to reach, right? and we stop at that moment, it's the process of us being able to redeem ourselves as dads, being able to work through those minor setbacks to be able to, again, come back and be a better, greater comeback dad. And our fatherhood isn't measured by where we started. It's defined by how we return when we have these minor setbacks. How do we come back more resilient, more stronger, more attentive to what our kids need, right? To what our family needs. So just remember that fatherhood isn't measured by where you started. It's actually defined by how you end up making that return, right? How do you bounce back? How do you come back from those things? Redemption requires consistency, and I keep saying this: consistency. As dads, we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent when we're talking about redemption. We have to be consistent. We also have to have a little bit of humility, right? Humility amongst ourselves to know, hey, I fucked up. Something happened, and now I have to be self-aware to be able to get that redemption, to be able to reconnect, right? To build that trust and that bond that may have been lost. So again, when we're talking redemption, is a process, right? The journey of fatherhood is a process. So this is just part of one of those processes that ends up being in there if we have these setbacks, right? The power of the second chance, right? Not only for you as a man, right? But also the second chance to reconnect if a bond that was lost for your kids, through your kids, right? So again, this redemption that we have that ends up, being what we end up going through, trust that process. It's not that one moment, right? But it's the process of what we have. And to get back, to come back as dads from these minor setbacks. So here's a tip. When we're talking redemption, right? When we're talking about trusting that process, track your progress. Weekly goals for communication, right? Patience and presence. Track these, the days that maybe you weren't feeling as patient. Still write that down, track it. Make sure that you're able to, put that process and that progress down on a piece of paper so you can look back at it. Track that. Another tip: share your growth journey openly with your kids. Let them know that you're trying and what you're trying and how you're trying to show up for them. It goes a long way, dads. It goes a long way when you can communicate with your kids. Again, if you have little ones, still try to, convey the message. But, as they get older, and if you have a setback when they get older and, more understanding, share your growth journey with them openly. Because again, they emulate us and what they see. And if they see you being a better person, having that accountability, being more self-aware, then them themselves end up being like that. And celebrate the milestones, right? Each hug, each conversation, each moment that you invite back that reconnection, that you're able to invite back that, again, redemption and rebuilding, rekindling of, maybe a broken bond. Definitely celebrate all of those milestones. So, a couple motivational quotes for you guys, right? Every father ends up stumbling, but real fathers end up getting back up. Okay. So just know that every father might stumble. Okay. But it's the real ones that want to succeed, that want to be there, that want to get better. Those are the ones that end up getting back up. Okay. It's never too late to become the dad your child already believes you can be. Let me say that one more time. It's never too late to become the dad your child already believes you can be. Man, that one right there. So it's never too late, guys. We get those second chances. We are able to get that redemption. We're able to rebuild that connection that may have been lost. But in our kids' eyes, they believe that you're a great dad. They believe that you're their hero. So again, don't give up. Be resilient, and let's get to being great fathers. Let's get to being able to show our kids, and again, that it's never too late to become the dad that your child already believes you can be. So again, dads, I greatly appreciate y'all for tapping in. Again, I'm Joe the Sound God. If you're new here, this is Operation Fatherhood for all dads, all walks of life, right? New dads, veteran dads, boy dads, girl dads. We are here. And hey, shit happens. We go through things, right? But we got to bounce back. We have to be able to come back from what ends up happening, right? So again, you guys are not mistakes. Your effort that you put into your relationship with your kids ends up making things right. The more consistent you can be, the more you're able to show resiliency and self-awareness, right? So that way you can give peace without holding on to pain. Do it. You're going to be able to do it. So again, this is the comeback dad for all my comeback dads out there. You know, if you haven't, had any small minor setbacks, as a dad, hey, take this as some advice, some guidance, on, what you can do if you end up having something like that. So like I said, y'all can reach out, Operation Fatherhood 25@gmail.com. Y'all can reach me on all social media platforms at Joe the Sound God. And until next time, we will see you later. Peace.